The cold November rain pelted the old oak tree outside the small coffee shop window, providing a fitting backdrop to Zara Carson's grief as she stared vacantly at her untouched cup. 2 weeks had passed since the accident, yet the pain of losing her father felt as raw as the moment she'd received the call. Even here, tucked away in this unassuming neighborhood far from her penthouse office, she couldn't escape the hollow ache in her chest. Mind if I sit here? Every other table's taken. Zara looked up, barely registering the tall man standing before her, a sleeping child bundled against his chest in a worn baby carrier. His jacket was frayed at the cuffs, and raindrops clung to his dark hair. She gestured half-heartedly at the empty chair across from her. "Thank you," he said, carefully lowering himself to avoid waking the toddler. "I'm Ben, by the way, Ben Davies, and this is my daughter, Lily." Zara nodded absently, returning her gaze to the window. She didn't want conversation, didn't want to be recognized. The last thing she needed was someone connecting her to Carson Enterprises, asking about the company's plummeting stock since her father's death, or worse, offering empty condolences. "You know," Ben's voice was soft, gentle, "I've sat at that same window for hours before." Staring out, seeing nothing. Something in his tone made Zara turn back to him. His eyes, deep brown with flecks of amber, held a familiar pain. "I'm not having a great day," she admitted. "I gathered that," he replied, adjusting the sleeping child. "Sometimes it helps to talk, sometimes it doesn't. But I'm a pretty good listener either way." There was something disarming about this stranger. Perhaps it was the tender way he cradled his daughter, or the absence of the polished pretense she encountered daily in her corporate world. Whatever it was, Zara found herself speaking. "I lost my father recently." Ben nodded, understanding immediately reflected in his expression. "I'm sorry, there aren't words for that kind of loss. Everyone keeps trying to find them anyway," Zara said, surprising herself with the bitterness in her voice. "People mean well, but they don't always understand that sometimes silence is better than platitudes." His gaze dropped briefly to his sleeping daughter. "Lily's mother died during childbirth. For months after, I wanted to scream every time someone told me she's in a better place, or at least you have Lily." Zara's eyes widened slightly. "I'm so sorry." "It was 3 years ago," he said. "The pain changes shape, but it never really goes away, and that's okay." "It shouldn't go away completely. It means you loved them." A tear slipped down Zara's cheek, the first she'd allowed herself in public since the funeral. She quickly wiped it away, but not before Ben noticed. Without comment, he reached into his pocket and produced a slightly crumpled but clean tissue. "I carry extras. Toddlers are messy business." Despite herself, Zara smiled slightly as she took it. "Thank you." The little girl stirred then, her eyes fluttering open. She looked around drowsily before focusing on Zara with curious eyes. "Who's that, Daddy?" she asked, her voice tiny and clear. "This is." Ben paused, realizing he didn't know her name. "Zara," she supplied. "This is Miss Zara, Lily. We're sharing her table because the coffee shop is crowded." Lily regarded Zara solemnly. "Are you sad? You look sad." "Lily," Ben started, clearly embarrassed, but Zara shook her head. "It's all right," she told him before addressing the child. "Yes, I am a little sad today." Lily wiggled until Ben set her on her own chair. She reached into the small backpack her father had placed on the table and produced a slightly squashed crayon drawing. "You can have this," she declared, sliding the paper across to Zara. "Daddy says art makes feelings better." Zara examined the colorful scribbles that might have been flowers or possibly butterflies. "This is beautiful, Lily. Thank you." "I'm an artist," the little girl announced proudly. "She certainly thinks so," Ben added with a fond smile, "though her medium is primarily crayon on walls." Zara laughed, surprising herself with the sound. "A true creative, then." For the next hour, Zara found herself drawn into their world. Ben was a high school English teacher who worked evenings at a local bookstore to make ends meet. Lily chattered about her preschool and her favorite stuffed elephant named Trunk. Not once did the conversation veer toward Zara's own life, and she was grateful for the respite from being Zara Carson, CEO of Carson Enterprises. When it was time for them to leave, Ben hesitated. "Listen, I hope this isn't inappropriate, but would you like to join us for dinner sometime? Nothing fancy, just spaghetti at our place. Sometimes it helps not to be alone." Under normal circumstances, Zara would have politely declined. But there was something about Ben's unassuming kindness and Lily's innocent charm that had momentarily lifted the weight of her grief. "I'd like that," she said. They exchanged numbers, and as Zara watched them leave, Ben carefully zipping Lily's coat against the rain, she realized it was the first time in 2 weeks she'd gone an entire hour without thinking about board meetings, stock prices, or the enormous responsibility that had fallen onto her shoulders. 3 days later, Zara found herself standing outside a modest apartment building in a neighborhood she'd likely never have visited in her previous life. She checked the text message again to confirm the apartment number, then glanced at the potted plant she'd brought as a hostess gift, wondering if it was too much. Before she could overthink it further, the building's front door opened, and Lily came bounding out, followed closely by Ben. "Miss Zara, you came?" Lily exclaimed, as though she'd been waiting by the window watching for her. "I did," Zara smiled, kneeling to the child's level, "and I brought this for your home." She offered the plant to Lily, who accepted it with wide-eyed reverence. "It's alive," she whispered. "It is," Zara confirmed, "and if you take good care of it, it will grow." "Like me?" Lily asked. "Exactly like you." Ben watched this exchange with a warm smile. "Thank you for coming, and for the plant. Our apartment could use some more life in it." As they climbed the stairs to the 3rd floor, the elevator's broken more than it works. Ben explained apologetically. Zara felt a twinge of nervousness. This wasn't her world. She was used to penthouse views and catered meals, not walk-up apartments and homemade spaghetti. But when Ben opened the door to reveal a small but meticulously clean apartment filled with books and Lily's artwork, something inside Zara relaxed. The place wasn't fancy, but it was unmistakably a home. "Welcome to our castle," Ben said, with a self-deprecating smile. "It's not much, but it's wonderful," Zara interrupted sincerely. Dinner was simple spaghetti with marinara sauce, garlic bread, and a side salad, but it was one of the most enjoyable meals Zara had eaten in months. Lily dominated the conversation, regaling Zara with elaborate stories about her preschool adventures, while Ben occasionally interjected with gentle corrections or clarifications. "And then Tommy said girls can't be astronauts, and I said that's stupid because girls can be anything," Lily declared between mouthfuls of pasta. "We're working on not using the word stupid," Ben explained to Zara with a wry smile. "It's a bad word," Lily agreed solemnly, "but Tommy was still wrong." "He absolutely was," Zara assured her. "Women can definitely be astronauts. They can be anything they want to be." After dinner, while Ben washed dishes despite Zara's offers to help, Lily insisted on showing Zara her room. It was small but colorful, with a twin bed covered in a bright quilt and walls decorated with more artwork. "Daddy made my bookshelf," Lily announced proudly, pointing to a slightly uneven but sturdy-looking shelf filled with children's books. "He did a wonderful job," Zara said, genuinely impressed. "He makes lots of things. He's super good at fixing broken stuff," Lily continued, pulling out a favorite book. "Can you read to me?" By the time Ben came looking for them, Zara was sitting on Lily's bed with the child curled against her side, reading about a mouse who wanted to go to the moon. "I see you've been recruited for bedtime story duty," Ben said from the doorway, his expression soft. "I don't mind," Zara replied, surprised to find it was true. In fact, reading to this bright-eyed little girl felt more fulfilling than the high-stakes business meeting she'd conducted that morning. After Lily was tucked in, Ben and Zara sat in the living room with cups of coffee. "Thank you for tonight," Zara said. "I can't remember the last time I had such a normal, peaceful evening." Ben studied her curiously. What do your evenings usually look like? Zara hesitated. She hadn't told him about her job, her company, her life. It had been refreshing to be just Zara, not Zara Carson, CEO. Busy, she answered vaguely. Work takes up most of my time. What do you do? He asked, another hesitation. I'm in business, corporate leadership. If Ben noticed her evasiveness, he didn't press. Instead, he told her more about his teaching, his struggles and joys raising Lily alone, and his dream of someday publishing the novel he'd been working on for years. It's probably terrible, he admitted with a self-deprecating laugh, but it keeps me sane. I'd love to read it sometime, Zara offered, then added quickly, if you'd want to share it, of course. Ben's expression turned bashful. Maybe someday, when it's less of a disaster. As the evening wound down, Zara found herself reluctant to leave. There was something comforting about this small apartment with its mismatched furniture and walls lined with books. I should go, she finally said, gathering her coat. I have an early meeting tomorrow. At the door, Ben hesitated. Would you like to do this again? Maybe this weekend, we could take Lily to the park if the weather's good. The question caught Zara off guard. Her weekends were typically filled with catching up on work or attending corporate social functions. But the thought of spending another day with Ben and Lily was surprisingly appealing. I'd like that, she said. Ben's smile was warm and genuine. Great, it's a date. Then, looking flustered, he added, I mean not a date, just a plan, an arrangement. Zara found his awkwardness endearing. A date works fine, she said with a smile, enjoying the surprised pleasure that crossed his face. Over the following weeks, Zara found herself spending more and more time with Ben and Lily. They visited the Children's Museum, fed ducks at the park, and had movie nights with popcorn and hot chocolate. Each time, Zara felt a piece of her heart healing not from the loss of her father, which would always remain a tender spot, but from the years of isolation her career had gradually imposed on her. Ben never pushed for details about her work, seeming content with her vague explanations about meetings and business trips. Zara told herself she would explain everything soon, but she cherished these moments where she could just be herself, not defined by her company or her wealth. One evening, after Lily had gone to bed, Ben and Zara sat on his small balcony, sharing a bottle of inexpensive but pleasant wine. You know, Ben said, looking up at the few stars visible through the city's light pollution, before I met you, I thought I had my future all mapped out. Teach during the day, work at the bookstore evenings, raise Lily, maybe finish my novel someday. Simple, predictable. And now, Zara asked softly. Ben turned to look at her, his expression earnest in the dim light. Now I find myself hoping for things I haven't let myself hope for in a long time. Zara's heart quickened. Like what? Like this, he said, and leaned forward to kiss her gently. The kiss was tentative, questioning, giving her every opportunity to pull away. But Zara found herself leaning into it, her hand rising to cup his cheek. When they finally separated, both were smiling. I've wanted to do that for weeks, Ben admitted. I'm glad you did, Zara replied. As their relationship deepened, Zara found herself increasingly torn between her growing feelings for Ben and her guilt over not being completely honest about who she was. The longer she waited, the harder it became to find the right moment to tell him that she wasn't just in business. She was the CEO of one of the country's largest corporations, with a net worth that would probably terrify him. The decision was taken out of her hands one December evening. They had tickets to see the Nutcracker Lily's first ballet and had agreed to meet at the theater. Zara arrived early, having come directly from an emergency board meeting. As she waited in the lobby, she spotted a familiar face, Richard Mercer, one of her major investors, accompanied by his wife. Zara, Richard called out, approaching with a broad smile. What a pleasant surprise. I didn't know you were a ballet enthusiast. It's become a recent interest, Zara replied smoothly, glancing anxiously toward the entrance. Darling, you remember Zara Carson, Richard said to his wife. She's been doing remarkable things with Carson Enterprises since taking over from her father. The stock has completely rebounded under her leadership. Of course, Mrs. Mercer smiled. We were so sorry to hear about your father, but he would be proud of how you've stepped up. Thank you, Zara said, her stomach nodding as she spotted Ben and Lily entering the lobby. Lily looked angelic in a red velvet dress, her excitement palpable even from a distance. Ben had clearly made an effort to, wearing what Zara recognized as his one good suit. Excuse me, Zara said to the Mercers, my guests have arrived. Before she could step away, Richard followed her gaze. Is that Ben Davies, the English teacher from Westside High? Zara froze. You know Ben? My nephew is in his AP literature class, speaks very highly of him. Richard looked puzzled. I wasn't aware you two were acquainted. At that moment, Lily spotted Zara and broke away from her father, running across the lobby. Zara, look at my dress. It twirls. She demonstrated with a spin that nearly unbalanced her. You look beautiful, Lily, Zara said, kneeling to the child's level, acutely aware of the Mercers watching with interest. Ben approached more slowly, his smile faltering slightly as he noted the well-dressed couple standing with Zara. Ben, these are friends of mine, Richard and Patricia Mercer, Zara said, rising to her feet. Richard, Patricia, this is Ben Davies and his daughter Lily. Mr. Mercer, Ben nodded, clearly recognizing the name. Your nephew Tyler is one of my most promising students. He speaks very highly of your class, Richard replied, studying Ben with undisguised curiosity. I wasn't aware you and Zara were friends. The emphasis on the last word made Zara wince internally. Before she could respond, Lily tugged at her hand. Zara's not just Daddy's friend, she announced with a child's innocent honesty. She's his girlfriend. They kiss sometimes when they think I'm not looking. Patricia Mercer's eyebrows shot up while Richard looked openly astonished, Ben's face flushed with embarrassment. Lily, remember our discussion about private information, he murmured. Well, this has been lovely, Zara said brightly, desperate to escape the awkward situation, but we should find our seats. The performance will be starting soon. As they moved away, Zara could feel the Mercer's eyes boring into her back. She knew that by tomorrow, the news that Zara Carson, CEO of Carson Enterprises, was dating a high school teacher would be circulating through her entire social and business circle. Inside the theater, Ben was unusually quiet as they settled Lily between them. Is everything okay? Zara whispered as the lights began to dim. Those people knew who you are, he replied, his voice low. The real you. Zara's heart sank. Ben, I can explain after, he said, nodding toward Lily, whose eyes were wide with wonder as the curtain began to rise. The ballet was magnificent, but Zara barely saw it, her mind racing with explanations and apologies. Beside her, Lily was entranced, occasionally whispering excited observations to both of them. Ben responded to his daughter with genuine enthusiasm, but whenever his eyes met Zara's, she could see the hurt and confusion in them. When the performance ended and they stepped out into the cold night air, Lily was still bubbling with excitement. That was the most beautiful thing ever, she declared. Can I be a ballerina, Daddy, please? We'll talk about it, Lillipad, Ben promised, helping her into her coat. But right now, it's way past your bedtime. We need to get you home. Can Zara come too? Lily asked hopefully. Ben hesitated, looking at Zara. I think Zara and I need to have a grown-up conversation, maybe another night. Zara felt a cold knot of dread in her stomach. Ben, please. Let me explain. I'll call you tomorrow, he said, his voice gentle but firm. I just need some time to think. Watching them walk away, Lily's small hand in her father's as she chattered about the ballet, Zara felt a profound sense of loss. She'd finally found something real, something that mattered more than quarterly reports and stock options, and she'd risked it all by not being honest from the start. The next day crawled by in excruciating slowness. Zara went through the motions at work, approving proposals and sitting through meetings while constantly checking her phone for a message from Ben. By evening, unable to wait any longer, she made a decision. An hour later, she stood outside Ben's apartment building, a small gift bag in her hand and her heart in her throat. When he opened the door, his surprise was evident. "Zara, I was going to call you." "I know," she said, "but I couldn't wait any longer. Can we talk, please?" He hesitated, then stepped back to let her in. The apartment was quiet. "Lily's at a sleepover with her cousin," he explained, seeing her glance around. "First one. I've already gotten 3 texts from my sister saying she's fine, but I keep expecting to get the call to come pick her up." Despite the tension between them, Zara smiled at this glimpse of his fatherly concern. "She'll be fine. She's remarkably resilient." "Like her father, I hope," Ben said, gesturing for Zara to sit. He remained standing, hands in his pockets. "So, you're Zara Carson of Carson Enterprises." Zara nodded. "I should have told you from the beginning. That first day in the coffee shop, I was hiding from exactly who I am. My father had just died. I'd been thrust into running the company, and everyone wanted something from me. Then you sat down and you just saw me. Not my name or my position, just me. So you decided to keep it that way," Ben said, his tone not accusatory but hurt. "Did you think I'd treat you differently if I knew you were wealthy?" "Honestly, yes," Zara admitted. "People always do. They either want something from me, or they're intimidated, or they resent me. What we have felt real in a way nothing in my life has for a long time. I was afraid to lose that." Ben was quiet for a long moment. "I understand why you did it," he finally said. "But relationships need honesty, Zara. How can I trust you if you've been hiding such a fundamental part of yourself?" "You're right," she acknowledged, feeling tears threaten. "I messed up. But Ben, nothing I told you about myself was a lie. Yes, I run a company, but that's what I do, not who I am. The woman who reads to Lily, who feeds ducks with you at the park, who laughs at your terrible jokes, that's the real me." Ben's expression softened slightly. "They're not terrible jokes." Zara managed a watery smile. "Some of them are pretty bad." He sat down beside her, the distance between them still palpable, but no longer feeling insurmountable. "I brought you something," Zara said, offering the gift bag. "It's not much, but—" Ben reached inside and pulled out a small, leather-bound notebook with his initials embossed on the cover. "For your writing," she explained. "You said you've been working on that novel forever. Maybe it's time to get serious about it." He ran his fingers over the fine leather. "This is beautiful, Zara. Thank you." "There's something else," she said hesitantly. "A business card for my friend Simon. He's an editor at Horizon Publishing. He's agreed to look at your work when you're ready. No pressure, no special treatment because of me, just a fair reading." Ben looked up, his expression unreadable. "Why would you do that?" "Because I believe in you," Zara said simply. "You're talented, Ben. You have stories to tell, and you've given me so much, shown me what really matters in life. I wanted to give you something that matters to you." Ben set the notebook carefully on the coffee table, then took Zara's hands in his. "I don't need expensive gifts or publishing connections, Zara. I just need you, the real you, whoever that is. Even if the real me comes with board meetings and charity galas and more money than I know what to do with," she asked, only half joking. "Even then," Ben confirmed, his smile returning. "Though I draw the line at you buying Lily a pony. She's already asking for ballet lessons after last night." Zara laughed, relief washing through her. "No ponies, I promise, though I can't make any guarantees about ballet lessons." She was pretty convincing. Ben's expression grew serious again. "This won't be easy, you know. We come from different worlds." "I know," Zara acknowledged. "But I think what we have is worth figuring it out, don't you?" In answer, Ben leaned forward and kissed her, his hands framing her face with gentle certainty. This kiss felt different from their others, a promise, a new beginning. The following months brought adjustments for all of them. Ben had to adapt to dating a woman whose name occasionally appeared in business journals, whose schedule was often unpredictable, and whose resources vastly exceeded his own. His pride sometimes made it difficult to accept Zara's generosity. But for Lily's sake, and his own happiness, he learned to compromise. Zara, meanwhile, discovered the challenges of balancing her demanding career with her desire to be present in Ben and Lily's lives. She rearranged meetings, delegated more responsibilities, and for the first time since taking over the company, made her personal life a priority. Lily, adaptable as children often are, simply embraced having Zara in their lives. She proudly introduced her as my daddy's girlfriend to anyone who would listen, took ballet lessons with enthusiasm if not particular talent, and delighted in the weekends they spent together. 6 months after their first meeting in the coffee shop, Ben and Zara sat on a blanket in the park, watching Lily attempt cartwheels with more enthusiasm than skill. Spring had arrived in full force, the trees lush with new leaves and the air fragrant with blooming flowers. "I got some news yesterday," Ben said, his tone casual but his eyes bright with excitement. "Simon called. Horizon wants to publish my novel." Zara's face lit up. "Ben, that's incredible." "I asked him directly if you had anything to do with it," he added, giving her a pointed look. "He swore you didn't, and that they're genuinely excited about the manuscript." "I told you it was good," Zara said, squeezing his hand. "You just needed to believe it too." Ben smiled, then reached into his pocket. "That's not the only news I have," he said, suddenly looking nervous. "I've been thinking a lot lately about how much my life has changed since you walked into it. Or, technically, since I walked into yours at that coffee shop." "Best interrupted pity party I ever had," Zara said softly. Ben laughed, then grew serious again. "The thing is, Zara, I never expected to find love again after Lily's mother died. I'd accepted that it would just be Lily and me against the world. And then there you were, brilliant, kind, beautiful, and for some reason willing to put up with a broke English teacher and his chatty kid." "Not broke anymore," Zara reminded him. "Soon to be published author, remember? Still definitely not in your tax bracket," Ben countered with a grin. "But the point is, none of that matters. What matters is that I love you, and Lily loves you, and we want you to be part of our family officially." From his pocket, he produced a small velvet box and opened it to reveal a modest but beautiful diamond ring. "It was my grandmother's," he explained. "I know it's not as fancy as what you're probably used to. It's perfect," Zara interrupted, her eyes filling with tears. "Absolutely perfect." "I haven't actually asked the question yet," Ben pointed out, his own voice thick with emotion. "Then ask me," Zara whispered. Ben took a deep breath. "Zara Carson, will you marry me? Will you be my wife and Lily's mother and make our little family complete?" "Yes," Zara said without hesitation. "Yes to all of it." As he slipped the ring onto her finger, they heard a squeal of delight. Lily came racing across the grass and threw herself at both of them, nearly knocking them flat. "Are you getting married?" she demanded, her eyes wide. "Is Zara going to be my new mommy?" "If that's okay with you, Lillipad," Ben said, his arm around his daughter. Lily's face became suddenly serious. "Does this mean I get a baby brother or sister? Because Tommy got a new baby brother and he says it cries all night and smells bad." Ben choked slightly while Zara burst out laughing. "We'll talk about that later," Ben managed to say. "For now, how about we just celebrate being engaged?" Lily considered this, then nodded solemnly. "Okay, but I think I would be a very good big sister." "I think you would too," Zara agreed, pulling the little girl into a hug. That evening, as they celebrated with ice cream sundaes at Lily's favorite parlor, Zara looked at Ben across the table. He was helping Lily navigate a particularly ambitious spoonful, his patience and love evident in every gentle instruction. He caught Zara watching and smiled that same warm, genuine smile that had first drawn her to him when she was at her lowest point. From the deepest grief had come the greatest joy. Her father would have appreciated the symmetry of that, Zara thought. He had always told her that true success wasn't measured in profit margins, but in the richness of one's life. Looking at her new family, at the man who had comforted her without knowing anything about her, except that she was hurting, And the little girl who had offered crayon artwork as a balm for sadness, Zara, knew she had found a wealth beyond measure.